Good evening and welcome to Students Dominate Math. My name is Mr. Hendricks and I am a school teacher at Providence St. Mel School. This is a live call-in interactive show brought to you through the facilities of CAN TV. And what we'd like you to do is call in the number 312-738-1060 and we will do the best that we can to answer whatever math questions you have. I'd like to be your math tutor. I'd like to be the person you call with that question you've always wondered about a certain math topic, or you have a homework assignment you're working on right now, or maybe you have a final exam, a test of any kind, standardized test question, whatever the case might be, in areas of algebra to calculus. And I'd like you to call in with that question, and I'll do the best that I can to answer it and attempt to make it super clear so that you find it easy to tackle. The way we run this show is we're going to, I have topics that I'm coming with, but my preference is that you call in. The number 312-738-1060, and we'll do the best that we can to answer whatever questions that you have. In the meantime, normally what I have is I have problems. And I do have a problem that we're going to work on because this is first and foremost a tutoring show. It is a math show where we attempt to assist students in dominating math. So that will never change. But I thought we would make today a little bit different because I am a super passionate math teacher. I love to see students dominate math. I know why. I'm not going to share that as to why I'm super passionate tonight. I'm not going to do that. But let's just say that I am. And what I have noticed on the internet, on the various social media sites, is I wouldn't say it's a trend, but I'd like to share an opinion. This is an opinion of a trend that I've seen where teachers are, in an attempt to motivate and inspire children, what I'm seeing is teachers are doing things like coming up with different dance routines. I've seen teachers have different hand signals that they'll do with the students, different, I guess back in my day you used to call it dapping, different things to do with the students to, from what I gather, to break the ice, make the students comfortable, establish a bond with the students in a way that they'll be more receptive to what the teacher is teaching. I've seen a variety of things, like I say, and I'd like to share an opinion, my opinion of this. And again, this is an opinion. I'm not saying that what you feel is wrong. I'm just sharing my opinion, which is based on, I've been teaching for about 15 years. This idea of doing different dances in the classroom, again, to break the ice or to motivate students, inspire them to listen to what the teacher is saying. This idea of having different things that are going on in the classroom absent the instruction or preceding the instruction. I want to comment on this. My opinion is I would like to see teachers not do these things. And my opinion, the teachers who feel the need to, or at least the desire to do different dance routines in the classroom, I disagree with not necessarily the effectiveness of doing this. I disagree with the overall the image it puts in the mind of the student, and I disagree with the end result of what you are teaching the student. And I'd like to expound upon that. And again, I'd love to hear comments. I'd love to hear feedback on what I am saying, because like I say, this is my opinion based on my years of experience as a math teacher at Providence St. Mel. I defend my argument by saying, as we teach our students and as we feel the need to do a little dance with the students prior to teaching them, or have some kind of exercise in an attempt just to motivate them, in an attempt just to get them to listen to us, if we are doing that as teachers, the students that are not doing that are learning. The students who the teacher does not need to do the different routines in an attempt to motivate them prior to doing the work, teachers who are not doing that with their students, they are teaching the students. While, let's say, I'm choosing to go through this whole ordeal or exercise just to get the students to listen to me, just to get the students to become motivated to perform at a high level that day, the competition, the other students who eventually will be competing with my students, they are working. While I'm going through some exercise that has nothing at all to do with actual understanding of the content that day, while I'm going through this, other students are learning, they're growing, they're developing. If there is this gap in a group of students learning and growing versus another students trying to become motivated to learn and grow, if that happens over the course of one day, I would not have as much of a problem with it. But if you talk about day after day after day, week after week after week, this time adds up. And what you'll have is this achievement gap, which I despise. I hate it. I hate the fact that you have one group of students, they have A's, you have another group of students, they have A's, but this group of students who have A's can't do what this group of students who also earn it, they can't do it. That's called an achievement gap. And we want to avoid this. So my first comment on going through this exercise of attempting to motivate students by way of doing the different dance routines and all this is, well, wait a minute, while we dance, another group of students is learning. And I would want to avoid that kind of thing. The second reason why I don't agree with this philosophy is, if you as a teacher think that it is okay in an attempt to motivate, in an attempt to open up the dialogue with your students in an attempt to make them feel comfortable in your class, to do all if you feel that it's important to do this, I would say that child will come into a class after the years after the student who you have years after the student who you've worked with, where you've done these things. They're going to come to a teacher like me, well, I don't do that. You're not dancing in my class, and I'm not dancing either. When your student comes into my classroom, it would be important that they are used to a teacher. Now don't get me wrong, I attempt to inspire my students. I attempt to encourage my students. I attempt to, like I say, inspire. I attempt to make the classroom enjoyable. I understand that an enjoyable class is a classroom where that child will be motivated. But all this dancing and the different hand gestures and the dapping and all that stuff, no, we don't do. minute one, the second the student gets in the classroom, I'm expecting them to get to work. So my point in saying all this is, if a child is used to, they're not going to do the work unless I do a little dance routine for them, or something like that, I don't think we're setting the children up to be successful in classes, except I don't feel as though we're setting the children up to be successful in classes that don't operate in a way where they do all of the different gestures and forms of motivation outside of a disciplined environment. I hope I'm being clear. In an attempt that I'm clear, let me explain what I'm trying to say one more time. If a student is used to doing a little dance routine before class, an attempt to get them motivated and inspired, if they go to another classroom that is not like that, I am concerned if they're going to have the ability to adapt. That's my concern. Thirdly, when as a teacher, my job is to teach the students. And again, I've made the point that we want the students to be inspired, encouraged. I believe in all that. But my concern is, and I also agree that the people who believe in trying to connect with the students by doing a little dance routine. I saw one video where the teacher taught this rap. The teacher taught a rap, and the rap, it wasn't a 3-second rap. It wasn't a 3-second rap. The rap that I saw on social media, the rap had to have been about 4 or 5 minutes. The rap had to have been about 4 or 5 minutes. So I'm like, hey, wait a minute. You're spending all this time teaching the students a rap? Man, that's a lot of time, because this was like 5 minutes long. And I am discouraging that. And the third reason, the first reason that I mentioned, that I'm discouraging all the raps and the hand gestures and the dance routines in the classroom. The first reason is, for the people who are just tuning in, the competition is not doing that. The competition, while you're doing all the dancing, the competition is learning. The competition is dominating math or science or English or whatever the case might be. That's the first reason why I am against these kinds of things. The second reason is, future teachers, if the child gets used to being motivated by the dance, being motivated by the rap in order to learn, what happens when the student gets to my classroom, the grade after them? And I don't do that. I'm concerned whether the child would have some challenges adapting. What happens when the child gets to the university of wherever they go? Well, I don't know of any college classroom who attempts to motivate, inspire the students in that way, if any way at all. And then the third reason I have a problem with these techniques of motivating students is because there are numerous ways of attempting to motivate students. Why are you leaning towards the way that you feel like you have to dance before the children? Why are you leaning towards the way where you feel as though you got to do a little dap or a certain kind of handshake just to get the students to perform at a domination level? Why are you leaning towards those approaches? In my view, there are a lot of ways to motivate, inspire a child. The number one way, in my experience, the number one way, and it works every time, in my opinion, is to show them how much you care. Show them how much you want them to dominate. There are ways that you can show them. This means a lot to, I'm your teacher. This means a lot to me that you get it, that you understand. You can do that. That's one way. Another way is you applaud them when they do well. You applaud them. You make a big deal about it. Sometimes when a student does something and they've shown a degree of improvement or they've shown a degree of comprehension, understanding, I'll call home. I'll call a mom. I call a dad. I'll call a grandma. I'll call folk. I'll make a big deal about it. And the student will be right there. It makes them feel good and they want to perform at a level again. They want to perform at a level again. But that doesn't take but a quick second. And it's not class time that's being used. It's not class time that's being used. This is after class or something like that. Or I'm a big history guy. I love history. And as a black man, and Providence St. Mel as a school is predominantly black, you can attempt to motivate, inspire students by telling them about the history of, as a math teacher, you can tell them about the history of blacks in science, in math. You can motivate them and inspire them about sharing them how they come from a legacy of black people who have dominated math, not just in the time that we spent here in the United States, but I'm talking centuries. I'm talking centuries of a legacy of people who look just like them who dominated math. And that could inspire a child to say, wait a minute, I come from a people who are mathematicians, scientists, who built this and that under many cases and sometimes adverse environments and situations. And so possibly if they did it, maybe I can do it too. If they did it, maybe I can do it too. No dancing, no handshakes, none of that. None of that. Just inspiration. This is just an opinion that I am sharing. That's the third reason why. There's too many other ways to motivate, inspire children besides doing all this dancing up in the classroom. I could see if you've tried to do all these things and none of it works. And then you, as a resort, you try this. I'm just sharing an opinion as to why I discourage some of the things that I'm seeing in the classroom as in an attempt to motivate and inspire children. The last reason that I have today is while all of this stuff is going on in the classroom, from doing the rap, from doing the dancing in the classroom, doing all of these things, probably the number one reason why I'm against all this is because all of that is replacing something that could be going on, and that something is learning. To me, doing all of this stuff is taking the time of something that something could be learning and getting better in the subject. So this is my opinion. And man, every time I see stuff, some of the things that I'm seeing online, I think about a lot of these comments. I wish someone would call in. We only have but 5 minutes in the show. I'd love to hear what someone thinks about what I'm saying. The number here is 312-738-1060. I know I've been very long-winded. If no one's calling in, that's all I had regarding my opinion on that topic. I do have a math problem that I'd like to jump into, and we'll finish out the show with the math problem. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. All right. So we got this math problem, order of operations, which is what we talked about last week. We talked about the order being you deal with the parentheses first, then you deal with the exponents, sorry about that, exponents, and then we deal with the multiplication and or division, multiplication, division. And then I think we might have a call. We have a call, wonderful. We'll pick this problem up next week. We have a caller. Caller, how can I help you?
Yes, my name is Geraldine Johnson. I'm a retired elementary school principal, and I just want to briefly comment on what you were saying about using dancing or handshakes for motivation.
Yes, ma'am.
If we want to know what motivations work with different groups of children, then we have to do the research or to look at the research to support and the data to support it. But I would say that your examples of motivating the students are very good. Teaching black history, that takes time also. And we know there's a connection between the physical brain and the intellectual brain and so forth. For some children, I'm saying, and teachers, it might be very appropriate to use those handshakes, and if the dancing for English and history certainly would be apropos, because children need to have real meaningful experiences that will encourage them and motivate them to be learners for life. So that's what I had to say about that.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very Can she stay on the line?
Bye-bye. And continue, Mr. Hendricks. I like what you're doing.
Oh, can you stay on the line? Are you still there? Oh, all right, we dropped it. First off, I do thank you so much for calling in. Continue to watch the show. I wish you would stay on the line so we could have an exchange. The thing that I would respond, though, I'd love to have had you to respond to what I said regarding if we do this continually, if this is habitual, if this is, I've seen institutions where this is part of the daily routine. My concern was that and by the way, I will say this, every time I'm seeing these kinds of activities for students, they're always geared towards African American students. I don't see these activities performed to students of different nationalities besides African Americans. That's one concern that I have. But next time, maybe we can continue this conversation next time. I would like if you could comment on what are the effects of our students doing these kinds of things before the learning process on a continuous basis. In my view, this time is taking the place of something. There are some students who they are being trained in a way where the expectation is they sit down, they stay focused, they do their work, and they get to work immediately when it's time to begin the class. Students who are be trained in this way, in my view, time could be spent learning. I understand what you're saying when you say that there are studies that show students are growing, students are becoming used to this kind of process, and there are some positive qualities in doing this. My only point is for every action there is a reaction, and in my view, the reaction is students are missing time learning other things that students who are not going through these processes, they are learning, they are growing, and they are developing. We only have 45 seconds left. I appreciate so much the comment that was made by that caller. Caller, please call again. We can have maybe a more extended conversations. But that's all we have time for. We only have 30 seconds left. We always finish out the 30 seconds where we encourage students to put forth your best effort in the classroom. When you have questions, ask. When you have questions, ask. If you don't have time to ask in class, ask after class or ask after school. But by all means, you never quit. You never give up. You put forth your best effort. And if you do that, you will eventually dominate math or science or English or Spanish. Doesn't matter. God bless you. Have a good evening, and thank you for watching.